Thank you. Thank you for your attention. This is when technology does work, even though it's slightly sometimes a bit sketchy in the beginning. But of course, I have plan B if it doesn't work. So let's see. I'm just going to run this slideshow now. Yes, that's it. So essentially, this is going to be a 5 minutes, introduction on pilot projects, what we have been doing behind the scenes. Because a lot of the team members are working as well to assist, Cathy and Trevor in the pilot project. So I've assembled a few, slides. Of course, I thought initially it was going to be like a back of an envelope type presentation, but I still had 30 slides to run in less than 5 minutes. So I better get started. We'll never change. So essentially, you can see here we had still to develop the existing building and the surrounding context, so that proper quantities could be taken off. Let's say the fill, earth fill for the new projects. So that had to be developed a bit further. We had meetings with, together in collaboration, environment. And luckily enough, we had enough of these meetings. But look, that's the way things go. We also had a pre-planning meeting actually, where the planners had some suggestions in relation to the design, and we met the client on site as well to walk them through the projects virtually. So the planners asked us to do a few changes, so the elevation has changed slightly, as you can see, to the front. I'm not sure if you remember exactly what we presented last time. We did some changes here to the front of the building in the crash. And now you can see what Trevor was alluding to, the BIM horse. He was not talking about me, but I'm talking about this kind of structure on the roof. It's a design concept of a, sculpture, so. I think Cathy is going to allude to that as well, of course, Now, structural update, Paul Sexton has submitted us with more information that we have included in the model. We have also included in the model all the M&E installation, and that was actually a flawless process, an almost flawless process. We received the IFC from Colin Reid, and we just put it in the model in ArchiCAD. Next week we'll show, or next month we'll show the federated model in IFC terms, but we were very happy there was flawless integration. Also in relation to specification, now it's very important that we had some outline specification to submit to the QS, of course. And if we had like 2 or 3 weeks, now we would have done a better job in tagging all the elements and all the rest. But we were careful in classifying all the elements according to our unit class 2. Also, just in relation to design, we came up with a design option, of course, of the sports. The floor, that we could have this kind of LED system with a touch of a button. We can change the layout of the court. Should it be, basketball, badminton, or anything else? Just an interesting idea, we thought. And in relation to cost estimation, that's something architects would like to get involved in as well. While being careful, but I think it would be more suited at the more kind of a design stage, initial design stage. We have plenty of information in the BIM package, 2D zones. We have also 3D volumetric zones. So if we assign a cost per square meter or even per cubic meter, we can come up with a list of all the areas, and we can also specify per zone what the cost is separately. So we came there to a certain cost. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's very small, perhaps to read, but we'll ask Cathy what the real cost is. It's probably way underestimated. So, BIM is as Trevor has alluded to, and also as Ralph very often reminds us, BIM is all about the I in BIM, information. And we are lucky enough that we work with a software that has this kind of elemental information, like you have the volumetric information, you have specification information if you put it into. So you could end up by, creating your own schedules and creating, your own quantities in-house, as architects. But it's, of course, a big word of caution, are we QSs? We are not, so we have to be mindful of our limitations. But, just as a quick, example, you can see just 2 examples of schedules, we have just 2 elements of a foundation strip. You can see the quantities of concrete. You can see also we've tagged the floor finish in 2 areas, and you can see exactly the amount of tiles that would be required for certain areas. So it's always interesting at initial design concept stage, to have this kind of feedback. So this is really the, architects have this kind of idea, look, this is marketed as an all-in-one solution. that we can do the concept design, outline, energy analysis, health and safety can help us with that, develop design, cost estimation, building assembly. But in the end, do we know the limitation of every single aspect of it? And are we actually qualified enough to know that we can, find the mistakes within this kind of all-in-one solution? And also, are we willing to take the added responsibility and liability as a profession? So it's really, this is the all-in-one chocolate cake recipe that I found. I did just this Google search and it's just found this cake fantastic. I can use this, But it's just to bring back the message that you can have your cake, you can't have your cake and eat it. It's all about of course, how you bake it, what are the ingredients. It can turn really horribly wrong. It can look good. It's all about a question of informed choice. As Trevor was alluding to as well, it's all about model, detail, measurements, model integrity, scale dependence. What are the exchange formats? Are you working in-house, perhaps at a scheme level, and also how you're going to give the information to the quantity surveyor. So there's a heap of questions. We don't have all the answers, and hopefully these kind of CITA workshops will give you, a hint to the path where to go. And we really would encourage, and it's great to see the number of you here, and it would really encourage for you to come along to the next workshops as well, in person, so that you can just interact with the members, and have some kind of informed debate. The next month, we hope to have a BIM Genius Bar that we have along the wall, a few computers. You can interact with the models of the pilot project and see how, to do even quick clash detection. That's the IFC model demonstration. We still have to organise that. So we also welcome steward contractors and PPM on board with the team, as Enda from John Paul Construction has very important duties to attend to overseas. We are sad to see them go, but we welcome our new partners indeed. A last point as well before I hand it over to Cathy. I'm just slightly over time, but this is the last thing, last presentation that was uploaded on the TED website. Very interesting. It's all about open source, housing types. This is the WikiHouse concept, and actually it's based on SketchUp. People have designed a house in SketchUp, have a plugin, and they can just go to the CNC machine, input a file, and just build a house, in less than, let's say a day almost, just with two people, So you can see the social responsibility that BIM can have, and the real impact on society, if we all embrace this technology. So I welcome you, to perhaps check this kind of a website, and presentation is quite good. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Cathy, that will give you an update on the pilot.
Bernard, we didn't get that cake. We got a Swiss roll. Jeez, security issues. Sorry, I have a fingerprint reader on the...
Good morning. My name is Cathy Malloy. I'll just zoom this in. Sorry, Trevor, just come back to me for 1 second. Just zoom that. No, just zoom that.
Okay, sorry.
Good morning, my name is Cathy Malloy. I'm from Austin Reddy & Company, and we are the quantity surveyors working on the pilot project along with Trevor and Bernard. Just a very brief history of the company. Austin Reddy & Company was established in 1948 by Austin Reddy, and in 65 years we've successfully completed projects in every sector, from healthcare to education to private residential conservation and restoration ranging from 100,000 to 250 million. Our clients include DCC, Dún Laoghaire Rathdown, the OPW, the Ivy Trust, various religious orders, Department of Education, the list goes on, and this is just a variety of some of the projects that we've worked on. Our experience of BIM has been mixed. We deliberated over it for quite a few months because it is a significant financial investment. Along with the CITA workshops and with Trevor, Trevor kind of pushed us over the BIM edge. And we kind of came to the conclusion that it is the future of not just designing but of measuring and construction. So we invested in both hardware and software. We invested in the CostX programme, but there are other programmes obviously from BillSoft and from Autodesk and the likes. We estimate that we invested probably about 30,000 in terms of hardware and software. So it is a significant investment, but we did decide to take the plunge. It does take a change in mindset. It's just a completely different way of working, and for some of our elder members of our company, it's a little bit more difficult than others. But the final format is obviously the same. You have your bills of quantities and you have your cost plans, but the process is obviously completely different. We were attached to our scale rules. We love our colouring pencils and our scale rules, but we decided to give them up. But you will be happy to know that there is a colouring function on the 2D one as well, so that's good. The 2D process alone has sped up our measurement. So even if you take 3D out of it, the 2D process alone, it's very beneficial on large scale projects. Like Trevor has mentioned, a couple of projects we worked on in the Middle East. So we've taken in a couple of 3D projects, but purely on 2D, it is extremely beneficial. We have, in terms of our experience in the Middle East, like Trevor was talking about, we've done steel package and concrete package. So the concrete package was relatively successful, and we checked off the quantities against a previous design that we had done, or a previous takeoff that we had done, and the quantities were almost exactly the same, and we reckon that it probably took maybe 3/4 of the time, probably even possibly half the time. The steelwork was a little bit different, as Trevor alluded to. It gave us volumes as opposed to tonnages, so we had to use a formula to work it out. So it wasn't perfect, but it's getting there. In terms of Ireland, limited again, but we are asking for models, and we've worked with Casey O'Rourke on a kind of a complex restaurant project, and we used it more for visualisation than for takeoff, because there wasn't a lot of quantity, but the connections were quite complex. So the visualisation element of it was extremely important for us to see the connections. For the CITA pilot project, obviously the objective was to produce a cost plan, which we have done. We decided to do it in 3D and in 2D to compare, to be able to compare and contrast in terms of time, ease and accuracy, and we'll talk about that later. So basically when we pull it in CostX, so we pull in the IFSC file into CostX, and this is the appearance we get. So it's extremely good for visualization. This is what you see. We have a transparent model as well, so that we can see inside the building. You can flip it and look at the foundations, and then we press the BIM button. So that's when the fun began, because this is what we get. Some of it's in English, some of it isn't. This XBIM ID, this is the reference that we get to the items when you pull it into CostX. We got 97,000 cells with information in it for the model. So it's difficult to pull out what information we need. This was Bernard's slide. This is what Bernard sees. So if we go back, we were seeing this, and we were saying, Jesus, Bernard, you could have tagged something for us, for God's sake. But this is what Bernard sees. So Bernard sees his foundations, his grade classifications, substructures, the thickness, the surface, the volume, and then this is what we see. Okay, so finding the information is difficult. Now it does give us a friendly type name, so we can see beam column covering, but again, what is that? Where is it in the model? And this is our Uniclass 2 classification. So say for example, A1505 turns out is substructure, A2525 is handrail, A2510 is external wall. So you have to tag those to be able to pull them across to find out what they are. And it is a mapping issue, so it's a mapping across in the IFSC file from Bernard's model to the IFSC file, so it's not Bernard's fault, it turns out. So when we pull out the windows, or say we're looking for the windows, so we've highlighted the windows, so we're looking for the windows in the model. Again, 703 cells of information on the windows. We probably need 7. So to coin a phrase, it's information rich and not information relevant. Thanks for that one, Trevor. So finding the information is difficult. Again, as Trevor was saying, it doesn't recognise footings, roof, joinery fittings and plumbing. So roof become coverings, or sometimes they become slabs. So you have to decide if that's in your roof, or if the slab is in your roof, or if the slab is in your floor. A typical example of this is when the joists came in, say for example, they gave us the volume of the joist. Now we obviously don't want volume, we want length or we want size. So we had to go back to Bernard and ask him to change the base quantities. So tick a box, change the base quantities, and then when it came back in, it had the size, which is easier to work with. This is the slabs. So this is everything that's labelled as slabs. So we've got our roof, we've actually got our acoustic baffling, we've got our footings. So from that point of view, pulling out information again is difficult. And again, we are relying on designers to label things correctly. So this is what we see when we pull it into our software. So with the IFSC file, we only have 2 layers. With the DWFX, we have much more layers. So basically, we have our items there. So we have beam, column, discrete accessory. That could be the horse on the roof now. Or was that a roof accessory? And then when you expand it out, I've just expanded out the railing. So there's our A2525. So in first glance, we don't know that that's a railing, but again, we have to go back and find it. So then we have to create our model map. So creating our model map, we have to drag and drop. So this is our schedule, say for example, for the columns. So we have to basically figure out, there's our friendly name, our column. We have to find out basically what level of detail we want. So here's our level 2. We do want that because that's the size of the column. We probably get the length. So we've pulled in if you look up the top, we've pulled in the friendly name, the level 2 name and the material 1 name. So we pull that in. So we have to do that for every single piece of information. Now we can copy and paste some of them down for say all the columns, but generally for every piece of information we have to create a model map. And then the ultimate aim is obviously to get to our dimension groups. So where we have our elemental sections. This is actually not from this project, this is from a different project. I pulled it out. So we have our carpet tiles, our concrete sealer, and then we can drag those quantities over to our bill of quantities or to our cost plan. We've prepared the preliminary cost plan, slightly more than Bernard's, but we still have some work to do, we still have some work to do. We did it in both 2D and both 3D, but we have more questions, we need specifications, etc. So we're looking at a budget of around 2 million. A lot of that, there's a significant amount of that. You can see 566,000 is M&E. It's fairly significant for a community centre. So again, more work has to be done on it, but again, it's a starting point. So in summary, in comparison, in terms of time, ease and accuracy for the 2D and the 3D process, for the 2D process, which was scale rule on drawings, about 1.5 to 2 days, and we probably have a little bit more work to do with the design team. In terms of ease, it's a traditional measure with your scale rule, it's hard copy drawings, it's meat and drink to everybody. And again, we make assumptions and ask questions. Obviously, we don't have all the details at cost plan stage, so we make assumptions. In terms of accuracy, there are composite descriptions and rates. It's your standard cost plan, and it's accurate. It is accurate for the level of detail that we have for cost plan stage, or that we need for cost plan stage. In terms of the 3D, initially there was a lot of frustration in terms of mapping issues, so we reckon it took about 1 to 2 days to get the mapping across properly, or in a format that we could work with. It took probably 1 day then from that point to create the model maps and the cost plan. So already we're seeing benefits there, and we're down on the 1.5 to 2 days. And again, when we do, say, another project with Bernard, we have all his maps, so there's a huge benefit. And the real benefit there is the third point, which is if we're doing options and changes, and that's already been discussed today, that if Bernard decides he wants to take out the horse, or if he wants to take out a part of the building, then we can do that quite easily, and it filters down, so we're not doing that piecemeal fashion. In terms of ease, again, mapping issues were frustrating, and it was a little tedious, but we're coming back to the accuracy and validation. Validation obviously is the key. We obviously had a template to validate off because we had our 2D, so we could validate the quantities against that. But if you don't have a 2D, then you're into your checks. You're getting out your 2D drawings and you're into your checks. And how do we know? So we know through trying to validate the quantities. And that's the update so far.